morality, and climate change. Okay, so let's have a quick summary, because we've galloped through a bit of philosophy here. I've suggested that we're rationally required to do what morality requires of us, so it's a reason that tells us what we should and shouldn't do. If we don't do what rationally requires of us, this is because we're ignorant, or, if you don't agree with Aristotle or Socrates, we're possibly weak or corrupt, and we may be ignorant of what morality requires of us because we're relying on others. So what's all this got to do with climate change? Well, Alex, the National Association of Realtors is at least putting the champagne on ice. The industry group says the slight rise in sales for previously owned homes shows the housing market is finally stabilizing, which is the first sign of a recovery. Now, that of course is an interpretation of the numbers, Alex, and one that's coming from an organization known for being somewhat of a cheerleader for the housing market, since its members are made up of realtors who've been losing a lot of money in the slump. Now, for a more sober view, I talked to Wellesley housing economist Carl Case, and he says the slight uptick in sales hardly offsets the fact that numbers are down 20% from the year before.
Financial markets swung wildly yesterday in frenzied trading market by further selling of equities and fears about an unraveling of the global carry trade. At the same time, trading in the European credit markets in London was exceptionally heavy as traders frantically reassessed their appetite for risk, prompting wild swings in the prices of the key derivatives. It was the third day of frenetic activity in the European credit markets, suggesting that equity market swings were prompting a wider repositioning of investors in a host of asset classes. Daniel Harris, a scholar of consumption and style, has observed that until photography finally supplanted illustration as the primary means of advertising clothing in the 1950s, glamour adhered less in the face of the drawing, which was by necessity schematic and generalized, than in the sketch's attitude, posture, and gestures, especially in the strangely dainty positions of the hands. Glamour once resided so emphatically in the stance of the model that the faces in the illustrations cannot really be said to have expressions at all, but angles or tilts. Illustrations cannot really be said to have expressions at all, but angles or tilts. The chin raised upwards in a haughty look, the eyes lowered in an attitude of introspection, the head cocked at an inquisitive or coquettish angle, or the profile presented in sharp outline, emanating power, the severity, like an emperor's bust embossed on a Roman coin. Emerald is defined by its green color. To be an emerald, a specimen must have a distinctly green color that falls in the range from bluish-green to slightly yellowish-green. To be an emerald, the specimen must also have a rich color. Stones with weak saturation or light tone should be called green beryl. If the beryl's color is greenish-blue, then it is an aquamarine. If it is greenish-yellow, it is a heliodor. This color definition is a source of confusion. Which hue, tone, and saturation combinations are the dividing lines between green beryl and emerald? Professionals in the gem and jewelry trade can disagree on where the lines should be drawn. Some believe that the name emerald should be used when chromium is the cause of the green color, and that stones colored by vanadium should be called green beryl. Calling a gem an emerald instead of a green beryl can have a significant impact upon its price and marketability. This color confusion exists within the United States. In some other countries, any beryl with a green color, no matter how faint, is called an emerald. Finally, we get a sneak peek of the world's largest interactive video installation that opens in London today. If you walk around Trafalgar Square in the next week, video cameras linked up to a computerized surveillance system will be tracking your every move. As you look down, one of over 1,000 animated portraits could appear in your shadow. These videos were created by people from across the UK who were asked to film themselves for 3 minutes, doing something that best represents them. The installation can project up to 14 portraits in the space. Well, basically just hitchhiking on the point. If you look at the customers at the Wall Street Journal, the basically financial news, financial people here are people who rely on sound, valid, and tallied data to make investment decisions. They look at things and track trends in the industry, worrying about things like profit maximization. If they even suspected that political issues and ideological issues from the editorial page were going to start affecting the flow of valid financial information. If they even thought that ideological issues were going to affect their ability to understand investments and make sound decisions, they get very upset. Higher interest rates have knocked investors' confidence in putting their money into property, evidence suggests. The insurance company Standard Life says that the rate rises since last summer have led more people to question the wisdom of property investment. To begin with, you should be standing in the main floor of the British Library. British Library situated in the Euston Road next to some pipe crustacean press, in the foyer to the left of the information desk. It was a large white staircase. Follow this up towards the gallery at the top of the stairs. Pause and look to your left for attention. This is Robert Cotton, born in 1570 and died in 1631. Cotton was a member of Parliament, but he's mainly known as a great antiquarian collector of manuscripts. It is the covenant we have a great depth and the survival of many English manuscripts. Finally, we take a look at how to mix and unmix liquids at the flick of a switch. Sandrin tells us more. Oil and water don't usually mix, but the new chemical sensitive to light has been added here to blend them together. When exposed to UV light, the chemical changes its structure and becomes soluble in water. This causes two layers to form with the oil floating on top of the water chemical combo. This method should be cheaper than the current alternative, which involves using high-energy centrifuges. An economist sees the world basically through a typical microeconomic toolkit. That involves things like thinking at the margin, rationality, opportunity cost, trade-offs. Economists, like any other discipline, rules and its own way of seeing the world. So basically, economics, or economists in general, tend to apply microeconomic concepts like that to explain the way humans behave and to make predictions about the future. I think it's really important for young people not to feel restricted in their choices, and also to be aware of the choices that are available to them. And obviously, the media has an incredibly important role to play in that. I think we tend to talk about science as this big kind of monolith, but of course, actually, it's this beautiful, multifaceted thing. There's almost something for everybody there. And there are so many different aspects of it. Somebody that's going to be attracted to working in biology might be a very different person from somebody who's attracted to engineering. I suppose it's about knowing the breadth of opportunities that are out there. And so anything that universities and broadcast media can do to make sure that those opportunities are visible. Why do we need more entrepreneurs right now? The entrepreneurs who create and run our businesses, who play by the rules, are in fact critical to our success as a nation. We need them especially today. Business, not government, will end this recession. Government must help by creating fair rules, sound monetary policy, and by protecting our fellow citizens in periods when they are jobless. We have to make way for the new entrepreneurial firms that will push us to frontiers of innovation. If sea levels continues to rise, eventually the property becomes inundated, and the real value of the property, the vast bulk of its value, will be in the value of the land, which of course is then unusable. And that's of course not insured by property insurance. Landowners and banks and other financial institutions that have lent money against the value of those properties are going to find that they suffer very serious losses, and it's not at all obvious at the moment who would compensate them. Christine Jones. Rebuilding carbon-rich agricultural soils is the only real, productive, permanent solution to taking excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Pip Courtney. She's frustrated that scientists and politicians don't see the same opportunities she sees. Christine Jones. This year, Australia will emit just over 600 million tons of carbon. We can sequester 685 million tons of carbon by increasing soil carbon by 0.5% on only 2% of the farms. If we increased it on all of the farms, we could sequester the whole world's emissions of carbon.